Hello everyone, my name is Mallory Burton and I did my report on Earl Warren. Before I get started, I attached a handout with a couple of questions on it which will be answered in this video. If for some reason you missed the video, they'll also be answered in my essay, which you can look at also. So we're going to talk a little bit about Earl Warren's background. When I first started looking into Earl Warren and everything, I was just really confused at why this would apply to our class on education. And then I found a couple cases that really brought him to be a well-known political leader. And through his position in politics, he was able to really influence our educational system today. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of background about it, and then we'll go into his most famous case, and then I'll wrap it up with how it helps us to hopefully prepare to be better teachers. So Earl Warren was born in Los Angeles on March 19th, 1891. He grew up in Bakersfield, California, which is kind of cool because that's like 45 minutes from where I am at. And his dad worked for the railroad company. Ever since he was little, his mom said that he always wanted to be a lawyer, and this was a big dream of his. So once he graduated high school, he attended the University of California, Berkeley, and there he got his bachelor's in political science. Sometime in between there, he also participated in World War I, which is very honorable. And I think that built a lot of his good character and good qualities. I think that had a large influence on him. Then, after he graduated from the University of California, he moved on to the UCB's School of Law. And there he attended, he graduated from and passed the California Bar on May 14th, 1950. And he became an official lawyer. From there, for about 10 years, he worked at private practices, and then he moved into public office. He actually ran for vice president later on, but he actually didn't get it because they made it very clear that it wasn't because of his character or who he was, but because he wanted to provide California with this health care plan, and there just weren't many supporters for that. So anyways, in 1948, President Dwight D. Eisenhower appointed him to be the Chief Justice of the United States. He dealt with a wide range of cases, starting from small cases like breaking a window to then his most famous case, Brown versus Board of Education, and this dealt with racial segregation in the United States. We're going to kind of go into his big case now and look at that a little closely. This is the most influential that he has been in our educational system is because of this very case. So I don't know, 48 years before the Brown versus Board of Education case was the Plessy versus Ferguson case. I don't know, you guys are probably familiar with it, but that just set a law that schools could be separate but equal, involving race, that African Americans can attend one school, whites can attend another school. As long as they're equal, it's fine to be separated. As we all know, the equal part didn't really come through, and white schools had a lot more opportunity, better teachers, better funding than the African American schools. So, two African American minorities petitioned the school and applied to attend that high school. However, they were denied admission because it was a white school and they were African American. So they took it to court, and it eventually worked up to the Supreme Court, where Earl Warren was there to decide to judge over the case. So he received a lot of controversy over this, a lot of opposition. A lot of people said impeach him and have him set shut down, and a lot of horrible posters and advertisements and articles were written about him against those who were for segregation in schools. However, people who knew him always commented on his great character, on his integrity. People also gave him the nickname of Crime Fighter, which is kind of interesting. It's a cool little fact. But so the question was, does the segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race deprive minority children of the equal protection of the law guaranteed by the 14th Amendment? So these minorities said, this is going against our 14th Amendment. And with about 9 votes for Brown, opposing segregation, and with 0 votes against Brown, the segregation was done away in schools. A lot of people said that this wouldn't have occurred were it not for the influence and strong character of Earl Warren. The decision was that separate but equal is inherently unequal in the context of political education. The unanimous opinion sounded by the death penalty for all forms of state-mandated racial segregation. So with this court case, segregation was done away. Like I said earlier, Earl Warren was known for his character. With all the cases that he had, none of them were repealed, none of them were questioned. They were always done in justice, and he was well respected. I want to read a quote about, a lot of people wrote bibliographies about him, especially after this case received a lot of attention, and just a lot of praise for him and for his stand. So I just want to read a quote. After a critic had read the bibliography of Earl Warren, he had this to say about him. Sorry, let me find it. It says, but more important, Warren was a man of innate decency. He was infused with a keen sense of right and wrong. To be sure, state-sanctioned segregation of public schools was on wobbly last legs when he became Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Warren is the person who gave it the final shove into oblivion to the betterment of all of us, and the changes his court brought to criminal procedures with some other dictator utterly by so long ago Texas appeals judge. Every man is entitled to one tolerably fair trial. The Warren court delivered a series of hammering blows to police and prosecutors who skirted the Constitution in criminal cases. So even after the case, he really stood by his ruling and really protected minorities. I think just the most important thing that I learned from Earl Warren to apply to us as we're preparing to be teachers is to really watch out for minorities and make sure that you keep your character all the time, and that you protect those kids that maybe fall behind in school, or those kids who are struggling with problems outside the home, just to make sure that they have the support and the help that they need as a teacher. And just a big thing on integrity and keeping your character, no matter what you're doing in a classroom, just to always try to judge righteously and be protective of minorities, and definitely keep your character. So that's our report for Earl Warren, and I hope you guys learned something and were able to really grasp the character of this man who really influenced our educational system.